This is the Christian Morrison Show. Hey guys, we got Jason Salamun today. So I said it correct, right?
Salamun, that's right.
Because it's spelled differently.
It's spelled differently, Salamun, but it sounds like Solomon. So like King Solomon, but not quite as wise.
Is there like a proper pronunciation of that?
Just Solomon.
Just Solomon?
Yeah.
Okay. What is that from?
So, that's a great question. My name comes from, it's a Croatian name.
Okay.
And when my great-great-grandfather immigrated here, it had an EC at the end. So it was Solomonek.
Interesting.
And then when my great-grandfather went into the service for World War II, for some reason, he dropped the EC at the end of it. And I thought he could have changed the whole spelling and made my life much easier at that point in time.
EC out?
Yeah, but
Solomonek.
he ended up serving in World War II and received the Purple Heart. Fought in the Battle of Hiroshima and everything. So that's where that side of the family.
He was in Hiroshima?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, actually. Yeah. I'm a big history guy, so
okay.
I love World War II history especially. So that's pretty crazy.
It is.
That he was there.
He was there. He was injured.
Did you know him well?
No, he passed away, 15, 20 years ago. But so my grandpa, we have all this information about my great-grandfather. His Purple Hearts, of course. There's a news article about what happened, and basically he was wounded in that battle. And this is what's wild. After the battle, the other side would come along and they would stab you with pitchforks or anything they had.
The other side meaning like the warriors or like just the population there.
No, so in World War II you were battling
Japanese or you were battling the Germans or whatever.
Exactly.
Or the Italians, yeah.
Exactly. So anyways, he pretended to be dead, got stabbed, did not move because that's how they could tell if you were alive.
Oh,
and if you moved or squirmed, you would be shot. And so he was injured. He was able, because of the pain, he passed out. Yeah. And then evidently was rescued shortly after that by a pharmacist which is interesting. A guy who was in the medical chopper ended up becoming a pharmacist. They were able to save his life, and he went on to live a full life, but received the Purple Heart for his heroism.
That's crazy that they stabbed him, because you always see that like in movies and stuff.
Well, yeah, they
like check them.
Yeah, they had the bayonets mostly, but I think I heard they used all sorts of objects.
Whatever they
bayonets were pretty common, but they check to see if they're dead, and if they moved, they will take care of that. So because of the pain, because he had received gunshots, he was in a great deal of pain, passed out from the pain, would come in and out, knew what was happening, and was able to just kind of grim and bear it.
Damn.
And
that's crazy.
And he said maggots got in his wounds, and that actually might have actually helped.
Because they eat some of the dead flesh and stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's just a wild story.
That is wild.
I'll tell you, that generation is made of special stuff.
Yeah, and they built what we have now.
Absolutely.
Basically everything we have is
absolutely
built from that generation. Yeah. It's pretty crazy, actually. Mm-hmm. My grandma was kind of the opposite side of all that, because she was from East Germany. Okay. My grandma escaped. I can't remember the year she escaped, but she escaped East Germany through Russian soldiers. Like, there's this whole deal with how she got out of there. So it's crazy to think like part of America comes from people that escaped during that time. Part of America comes from people that fought during that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all connected to it somehow, basically.
My dad's side of the family, had a Croatian name, but very much German, and had some, I'm told, Jewish as well. So it's just fascinating that just the melting pot.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. There was this guy I was listening to that was talking about how his great-great-granddad was like the ruler of Iran, I think. His great-great-granddad. Yeah, was the ruler of Iran. And he was like, people think I have some kind of like trickle down effect from that, because he's like a really successful guy. He's like, I don't have any trickle down. I don't even know the guy's name. His great-great didn't even know his name. And he had 450 kids. Oh. Yeah. And I was like, that's insane, first off. he got some work in his life. That's for sure. But so anyways, it made me think about, at some point, your bloodline, or whatever, like we make a big deal out of bloodlines, I feel like. Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, you passed down your name or whatever, right? With your kids, which I have all girls, so maybe I never will do that. Don't you as well? of all girls, or no?
No, I got one son, one
You have
daughter.
one son, so you get to pass down your name. Maybe. Anyways, so I was thinking about it after he said it. I was like, well, eventually, everything you do, like in 100 generations, no matter what you do on Earth, you're probably not going to be remembered. Like your name is probably not going to be remembered. And I was like, wow, it's kind of interesting. So it's like we make a big deal out of like legacy and passing stuff down. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know who 50 grandparents ago. I don't know that person's name. They could have been a ruler for all I know, but you don't know because stuff doesn't pass down that long. You know, the only thing that's really ever passed down that long is some history. But if there's anything I learned recently, it's history is written by whoever won that at that time, right?
Yeah.
And then the Bible is about it. What are the stories do we really know, like in detail like that? You know what I mean? I don't know. Just made me think about that the other day. Kind of a random thought. But back to the introduction of Jason. As we rambled there for a minute. Yeah, I'm bad about that.
So that's a story of my last name.
Yeah, that's a really cool story, actually. Jason is city council member here in Rapid City. And then also, what is your title at Fountain Springs?
So I'm executive pastor. Basically, what that means is I oversee the staff and operations.
Okay.
So we have a lead pastor, of course, who does most of our teaching and leads the church. But so he kind of hires me as his right hand to kind of run the day to day. And so it's a growing church, multiple locations, online. So a few years ago, he approached me and just said, we had been attending, and at that time I was a vice president at Black Hills Federal Credit Union.
Okay.
So he sat me down. He's like, hey, we're growing. We have a need. Would you at all be interested in overseeing the staff and operations? And he just, it was a good time in my life. I prayed about it, of course, talked to my family and made that leap. And I had been at the credit union over 12 years.
Wow.
So it was a big decision.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful. It's been a good season in my life. Obviously, I wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah.
But it's pretty exciting.
So you did before this, you did Black Hills Federal. You said you were what did you do there?
So I was vice president of operations and strategic services, which I always said everything else that's like non-lending, eventually I kind of oversaw at some point in time, most everything. So I'd oversaw training at one time, a period of IT, I oversaw that, but our operations where you build locations and we had an insurance agency and an investment agency. We had compliance, just a lot. I mean, you name it, strategic planning, all of that kind of stuff. I've been able to,
been a part of.
Yeah.
You feel like probably if you were there for how long? 12 years, you said?
Yeah, over 12 years.
You probably were there during a massive growth period, I imagine. Anyways.
Absolutely.
Feel like the last 12 years.
And a recession and growth, and they're still growing.
Yeah.
Great organization, but very grateful. I obviously grew quite a bit there. You don't spend that much time and
not grow.
That's right.
Especially if you're moving up. What did you start out as there?
There, I started out as training manager, training and development manager.
And then worked your way up to...
Yeah, prior to that, I was at Assurant, which I always...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to get into my career, I was in the Air Force.
Yep.
So after high school, I graduated high school here in Rapid City, went in the Air Force. After my service was up, had just gotten married. My wife and I decided to move back to South Dakota. We were stationed in Colorado Springs. Moved back here and kind of plant our roots, raise our family. And I went to school to be a teacher. Never actually ended up doing that because I had to work as a non-traditional student, taking care of my family and going to school at the same time. So I ended up at Assurant, but prior to it being called Assurant, it was American Memorial Life Insurance Company. And what it did was it formed with a bunch of other companies to become one company. And just kind of a wild set of circumstances. I ended up getting the opportunity to help be a part of the branding process of what would become a publicly traded company. So I got to go in my early 20s to Manhattan and sitting in on these meetings I probably had no business being in.
That's awesome.
But about how to position ourselves in a brand to go public. And so in 2004, Assurant went public, had an IPO, became the second largest IPO that year behind Google. And I, for some reason, found myself in those rooms. And it has to do with a lot of circumstances here in the Rapid City office, but was very blessed, very fortunate. So I always say this gal, Tammy Schultz, kind of gave me my big break, really invested a lot into me at that time, believed in me, and I owe a lot to her. So she was amazing. And then, so I did branding and HR and all sorts of things for Assurant and traveled all over the country to the multiple locations. But, having a family and traveling a lot got to be tough.
Yeah,
and
that
so
would be tough. I can
I
imagine.
reached a crossroads where if I wanted to grow, I had to move to Atlanta or stay in Rapid City.
And change it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then that's when Black Hills Federal came
Into it.
Yep.
Explain this to me. I'm curious. I've never understood how credit unions work.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, I talked to somebody one time and they're like, yeah, credit unions are owned by the members or something to that effect. And I was like, what does that mean? So explain that.
So essentially, a bank, and I think there's places for banks and credit unions.
Right.
So I'm not an anti-bank person, but
I guess explain the differences. Maybe.
Yeah. So but people, obviously they get pretty passionate, but a credit union, it is owned by the shareholders. So, in a bank, you might have one owner or multiple owners in an ownership group where, in a credit union, every member has an equal share.
Okay.
So when you become a member, you pay, I believe it's $25 to get a share, and that goes into your savings account.
Okay.
And that way you actually get to vote on the board of directors, that represents you kind of like we do in public office, and then their CEO reports to them.
Okay.
And then, the rest of the staff does. So it's really all about where the profits go and who has the ownership. And so with a credit union, the profit, and there's a lot of additional rules for credit unions.
Federally or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a different world versus banks. They can't lend unlimited amount commercially.
Okay.
They're capped, usually what they can, unless things have changed since I've been there. But that was the case when I was there. And so each shareholder gets to be a part of it. So the profits from the credit union can be reinvested back in the credit union, either through more services or lower rates, you name it.
Yeah.
So that's the main difference. They always said people helping people. So it's pretty democratic in a lot of ways.
It feels that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I use Black Hills Federal for all my personal stuff.
Yeah.
I switched to them. And I think they have better, every experience there seems better to me. Like they're more innovative, seems like to me anyways, more innovative, more growth driven, also more customer driven. So it feels that way.
Yeah. Well, it's, you were a member there,
Yeah.
and, when I was there, obviously service is huge, but online was big. And so I can tell you just in my time there and still being a member today, the investment they made into being competitive with online services, which is,
I think
challenging.
they're better than most.
I just don't have any issues, but, so it's been pretty awesome to watch the growth. I think they're, when I was there, we expanded to Sioux Falls, and I think they're looking at, other regions as well.
Where all are they?
Gosh. So all over the Black Hills, Pierre, multiple locations in Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
And I think they might be heading out west a little bit. I don't know exactly what their plans are, but that's the rumblings is they're looking at other locations.
But right now, just South Dakota or no?
Right now, South Dakota.
Okay.
But it wouldn't surprise me if
they
you see,
expand out.
Yeah,
I could see that happening too. They seem to be a really well-run organization to me. So that makes sense. What other restrictions do they have as a credit union compared to a bank? Anything major or not?
Well,
really?
mostly restrictions, like I said, on the commercial side. I think that's big. Depending on how your credit union is set up, your membership can only be in a certain amount of people. So Black Hills Federal is based on a region, so they have to apply. Hey, we can serve in these counties.
Got it.
And those counties have to be contiguous. They can't just go anywhere in the country. There are some limitations, but some are set up on affinity groups. So like Navy Federal Credit Unions based on if you were in the military. Well, I could easily do that, and that's anywhere and everywhere. So it kind of depends on how you're set up.
Okay, that might from the get go probably.
Yeah.
Can you change? Can they change?
They could. I think it's
voted on.
It's voted on, and I think federal government doesn't make everything easy.
I'm
sure that's quite a process.
You know what else has always confused me about credit unions is how they can kind of work with other credit unions.
Yeah, they have to. So, for example, one of the drawbacks is, well, if I have a local credit union and I travel, to Florida, can I get money? Can I get services? Well, yeah. So they had to network together, and they joined. So basically, many of these credit unions, you go into them, you can actually perform transactions through your home credit union.
That's cool to me. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. It's innovative. I think whenever you have limitations, it creates innovation.
Yeah, agreed. So let's talk about what brought you into the city council realm and the public office space.
Yeah.
Like, how did that come to
Well,
be for you?
that's a great question. So this is going to sound goofy. When I was 18 years old, I was in the Air Force, and I'd always wanted to serve in the military at some point. Probably a combination of obviously family history, G.I. Joe, and Top Gun. You know,
Yeah, hell yeah.
you love America, and,
Hell yeah.
and so you want to get in the service. Well, I'm in my training, and part of my training is you're doing these overnight kind of security shifts where basically you're guarding a door. I think they're just teaching you how to deal with, it was in training, so
Yeah.
it didn't really have much for security.
Yeah.
So I would get bored between 2 and 4 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
You're just kind of sitting in a chair waiting for anything to move.
Yeah.
So I brought a pen and paper with me after a while, and I wrote out 10 things I wanted to do in my life as part of that process. And, serve in the military was one of them. So that, for me, that was Air Force. Being an executive was one of them. Anyway, I had a list of 10 things.
Yeah.
One of them was run for office someday, So fast forward 2015 or so, I'm in a program called Leadership South Dakota, an excellent program.
Yeah.
It's you basically September through April, you're spending 3 days a month in a different community in South Dakota, meeting amazing people, having great
Yeah, I've heard of
experiences,
this, yeah.
and you just get some awesome opportunities. Well, I shared this list, or at least the idea of this list, with some of my classmates, and they really got to talking about, hey, you should run for something. I'm like, maybe when I'm older,
Yeah.
Right now it's kind of tough with a job and everything else, and but they were pretty persistent in putting the thought in my head, and so I've been pretty passionate about our community in a lot of ways, not just politically, but just how do you make it better. And so other things I had been involved in had been in that idea. So long story short, by the time I graduated in April, I had already rolled out a campaign for that June. So,
That's pretty awesome.
So about January or February of that year of 2016, in that process, I decided I'm going to give this a go. And I decided city council will let me still work, and but still I can serve my community. And I thought that was a better route for me. So I did that for 3 years, and that first term was awesome. We got a lot done in that first term. The arena, a lot of folks know that.
Yep.
The Innovation Center that Elevate sits in today.
Yeah, that place is awesome.
Yeah, so that was a big part of what we did. We were able to do a lot, and
Yeah.
a lot of fingerprints on those projects. So I was pretty proud. But of course, as my term wrapped up in 2019, with all the changes that were going on at the credit union, really was going to be difficult for me to continue in public service and have that high level of work.
Interesting.
So I had to say, I won't be running for reelection.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer, but you kind of say, okay, that is
Is
what
it is, right? Yeah.
And I totally get it. I mean, it's hard to balance the world.
Yeah.
So then I took a year off, and of course I changed jobs, went to work for the church,
Yeah.
and tried to work in a little flexibility, and said, I might jump back into this now that I am in a new place in my life.
Yeah.
And so I did, right in the middle of when the pandemic's
Yeah,
breaking
yeah.
out. So
Yeah.
barely got to campaign, didn't really know how it was going to go. And so, but I squeaked it out, and now here we are 2 years, and I got one more year left. So on city council.
So do you have one more? How long can you go on a city council for?
You can
Is that
go as
limited?
long as the voters allow you to go.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure, if you want to scoop, this is probably my final term on the city council.
Yeah.
I might continue public service beyond this. Praying through that right now, but I think 6 years on the council. I think letting somebody else have a turn, and seeing whatever the Lord has for me next.
What's your favorite part of the city council for you?
It's the people you meet, and the difference you make.
Yeah.
And nobody can do it alone.
Yeah.
One thing, like any good thing, a vision you can accomplish all by yourself isn't much of a vision.
Yeah.
So, but with the city, it takes a lot of people doing their part, and so you have a whole city that you have to help make decisions for.
Yeah.
And you have competing priorities sometimes, of course. But some of my favorite stuff beyond the things we get done are just the people I meet, because you really get to know what makes this community tick.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
And that's where you see where it's special. Honestly, I think that's what makes a community special. It's not just the places and sites and all of that, but it's about the people that make it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually the reason I started the podcast, because I was like, I want to get to know the people that are running our city.
Mhm.
So that was the reason I was like, how could I like get in front of them without being like, can I just talk to you? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's kind of like awkward.
Well, you
a little
can.
bit. Yeah, you can, but it gives them something too in return. Like I've had a lot of business owners on here, and every single person that's been on here has got something from it, some kind of business from it and stuff like that. So it's like a way to give back for their time in a way, you know? Yeah, that's awesome. So what do you see yourself doing in public other than that?
That's a good question.
Don't know yet?
Well, I have some thoughts,
Yeah.
but you know, there's big decisions.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
And it's
Huge.
and I don't want to do something just because I want to do it. You know, my faith's pretty important to me. So
Yeah.
obviously I'm going to pray a lot about it. I'm married to an
Yeah.
awesome wife.
Yeah.
She's got a lot to say about it. Anything we do, it's teamwork.
Joint effort. It's awesome.
Yeah. And then right now I'm in this stage where I'm talking to wise people around me and say, what do you think?
Yeah.
And I'm willing to listen. So right now I'm in that stage where I'm listening and saying, if I do this, what do you think? And
Yeah.
so that's kind of the phase that I'm in terms of next steps, if there is, or maybe there's something completely different. But I have probably a decision to make
Pretty soon.
in the coming months.
Yeah, makes sense. What do you think the future of Rapid City has to hold in general, from like insider perspective, I guess?
Yeah.
What do you see being like the growth and things coming up for Rapid?
Yeah, well, the question is not whether we're going to grow.
100% is going to. Agreed. Yeah.
We're going to grow. The question is whether it's going to happen to us or if we are going to get out in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we need to really be keeping our eye on is and I know folks are concerned about what does growth bring? Well, growth will bring opportunities and challenges.
Totally.
So, you know, for example, I think, you know, you work in real estate, so you see what's happening in the housing market, and obviously rates and other things are going to affect that. But it's anticipated that the next decade, we could have 30 to 40,000 more people, and some people say double.
I've seen 100. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so, but regardless, we're talking tens of thousands.
Yeah. 30,000 is a giant number in 10 years. Yeah.
For us, because
Massive.
we've been an incremental growth community for quite some time.
Yep.
So it's kind of this rush, and so what do? Well, you obviously you have housing challenges. So, you know, in addition to inflation around the rest of the country, it's making it difficult.
Yeah.
We have a migration surge.
Yep.
So folks love the personal and economic freedoms that South Dakota has to offer. That's why a lot of us live here as well. So that we have that going on. The B-21's coming, which is you know, going to be massive for our community, and just, you know, success of the organizations that are already here, and we're seeing that, and we want to see more of that. So all that's going to bring some new challenges. So, for example, you know, with police officers, we're going to need more police officers. Well, it takes you know, nine months to a year to get a police officer ready and trained and ready to go. So now we have to start to think of what's the population going to be in a year from now, and hire right now for what's tomorrow. And that's the kind of thinking we really have to have in a lot of ways, not just in terms of police officers, but where you put schools, you know, where you build neighborhoods,
Water, roads.
water for sure.
Yeah.
Water, in fact, is going to be a challenge for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in good shape right now, but so there's an effort to try to get a pipeline from the Missouri River out here, but you have to work with all these communities, have to be in agreement, work together to make that happen. So we also have to start thinking more regionally.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things that
I
are
feel like
going to
most
challenge us.
areas that grew exponentially, like we are already and going to continue, in my opinion, too, did not plan stuff well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you look around the country, most areas planned horribly for most of this stuff.
Well, and I think if you're going to grow, you want to do it in such a way that you keep what makes you special.
Yeah.
So I think your values, who we are as a community, the people and everything that we talked about already are what makes us special. So how do you grow in such a way that you do it in a smart and strategic way and still keep what makes this place special and not just turn it into just some other place?
Totally. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's an act there, though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I think it's tough.
It's not easy.
But I mean, I have a YouTube channel that last year brought like 150 people to our town just for my channel, which is pretty crazy. It's kind of focused around people moving
So
to
it's your
Rapid City.
fault?
Yeah, part of it's my fault, I guess. Yeah. I'm not saying they came here just because of my YouTube channel, but they came here and watched my YouTube channel anyways. And that was a helping factor for some of them. And I get this comment a lot from people that are locals that are like from here for a long time, or born and raised here maybe, is they're worried they're going to come in and change it. Yeah. And in my experience, from all the people that I've met that are coming here, they're pretty much aligned with our values exactly.
Well, we see it at church.
Yeah.
Christian and I go to church together. We see each other every now and then. But as I've gotten to know some people that moved here, their reason for moving here is in alignment with their values.
100%.
So,
yeah.
And I think we can't ignore that.
Yeah.
And I give a lot of credit to the governor.
Totally. Yeah. Totally.
If you don't like the growth, you're probably upset. But at the same time, I think it can be great growth because the world's crazy. And I give a lot of credit to the governor for really promoting South Dakota as a beacon of liberty and light.
Yep.
And because of that, we're seeing the fruit of it. And
so
now it's on us, those of us who, whether you're building a business or you're helping to lead a city or whatever you're doing, to try to manage it well. And listen, healthy things grow, healthy people grow, healthy organizations grow, healthy communities grow. So as long as we keep strong roots as a part of that and not just growth for growth's sake, I think we'll be okay.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. And I don't foresee South Dakota being an attractive place for people that don't align with our values.
It's gonna be tough. You're gonna get frustrated.
Yeah.
But the world is pretty divided right now.
That's very true.
But a lot of reasons why people choose. I mean, that's true of me too. You're especially when raising a family. Is what kind of values does this community seem to have that will support what we are trying to teach our children?
Yeah. I love that. It's true. I know a lot of people that moved here that are homeschools, like homeschool community, and stuff like that. Community is probably growing here as well. I was homeschooled growing up, and I was looking up the stats on it. When I was growing up homeschooled, it was like 1% of the kids were homeschooled. Today, it's 10%.
Wow.
Of kids in America. And so when I read that, I was like, wow, so homeschooling is like cool now. Because when I was growing up, it was like all the weirdos were homeschoolers, you know what I mean? And people just assumed that. But I wonder if that will continue to be South Dakota will be a hub for that.
Well, it's been more sophisticated. We didn't homeschool our kids. Our kids went to public school. But I think there's a place for all of it. You definitely need public schools. I think great private schools, and we have some here too.
Yeah.
But the homeschool community, they are working together, and the outcomes are
it's kind of cool.
Great for the kids.
Yeah.
Definitely the pandemic, again, when people are stuck at home, you find out whether you can do that or not. I think it really shifted education. I believe in education, but I think it comes in all forms and sizes. And,
totally.
And whatever helps a kid thrive, let's go for that.
Yeah, I agree. I was just thinking about how you said, people are like some people are definitely mad about growth in rap. They're like, oh, I want it to stay small or whatever, Yeah. But they also are the same people, in my opinion, that complain about housing prices and things like that. And one thing I will tell you is that those people coming here, a lot of them are bringing companies here too. And those companies, the ones that I know that are coming here, their starting salaries are really high for the area. Mm-hmm. So those companies coming here, the growth here might help you be able to afford stuff in the future, because we do lack higher paying jobs here. Yeah, for sure.
We definitely need that. Of course, I'm not happy about the price of my home going up because my taxes went up.
Yeah, they went up a lot. Didn't they?
I think we all feel that, and it's frustrating. In addition to the inflation, we all just have less change in our pocket right now. Yeah. But we've known for a long time we need to diversify our economy. I'm very grateful for our top two industries are agriculture and tourism, and they definitely impact Rapid City.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think we definitely want to appreciate them and value them, but build on that. And I think there are other branches to that economic tree. So whenever we can bring in manufacturing jobs, which we have a battery manufacturer coming to town here soon. But we have high tech jobs. We have the South Dakota School of Mines that are producing amazing talent.
Yeah.
Well, how can we keep them here? How do we keep them here? And so that's a big thing. And obviously, it's a great place to start and grow a business.
Yeah,
you can headquarter here and serve, and because of the technology, serve all over the world. We have company. I'm going to 10-year anniversary tomorrow for B9 Creations. They are leading the way in 3D printing technology.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's 10 years. I mean, 10 years ago, that was less common than it is
Totally,
today.
yeah.
But, they continue to grow. I'm excited for them. And I love seeing stories like that, because I think those are success stories where you can do it from here and continue to grow and build. And those, obviously, we want good paying jobs. And that's, it's good to have service industry jobs as well, but you also need jobs that you can provide, for your family. And I grew up pretty poor, so I've come to appreciate what economic development and opportunities can do for a family, that when they can provide and be able to have a life. I think that's pretty important. So
totally agree.
Let's promote it.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, and I hope more of that starts coming here. I personally have 2 clients that are bringing companies here that are going to be hiring a couple dozen people each, and starting salaries in the $60,000 to $70,000 range.
Nice.
Which is amazing. Yeah, I mean, like, that's for our area. I feel like that's awesome.
That's strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both of them are going to hire locally.
Okay.
And I was like, awesome, please do.
Well, there's a lot of remote workers too.
There's a ton of remote workers here.
We see that with a lot of migration. When you hear like, where are you working at? Well, I kept my job at so and so. But
which is kind of cool that a lot of people are able to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the world we live in.
Yeah. Kind of makes sense actually for a lot of those big companies to me. I'm like, reduce your overhead by $50 million a year or something.
Yeah.
Get rid of your giant office space or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think Twitter did that, or maybe they brought them back. I can't remember. One of those big companies like that got rid of all their office spaces. And I was like, makes sense. If you're leasing them, especially, just get rid of them. Yeah. Now Elon's going to run that.
That's right.
That'll be interesting.
I'm excited to watch that.
I know, me too. It's already been entertaining.
I've had a love-hate relationship with Twitter. I'm on there.
I've never been on Twitter. It's the only social media I've never been on.
I used to love it. It used to be my favorite, and then it got pretty toxic. But I'd go out there every now and then. And it used to be a lot more conversational. Now it's pretty.
Now it's more like attacking stuff.
It's like one way or the other. It's not that I deal with it a ton, just in Rapid City, but I still go on it every day. I have people that I follow and like to know, I kind of use it as a news aggregator. Here's what's going on. And,
that makes sense.
And it's good. It'll be interesting to watch what happens with that.
Yeah, it will
might have a resurgence.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it probably will.
So.
If that deal actually goes through too, because I was just out of curiosity reading the terms, because I was like, how does a deal on a $44 billion deal look like? And the terms are they can basically back out for any reason, either party, until the end of October.
Okay. So
it's got a while till it closes. And there's a lot. I'm sure there's a ton of due diligence and all kinds of stuff.
A lot of maneuvering probably behind the scenes.
Yeah. Me and my dad were talking about, how do you get funding for that? Like, hey, I just need $44 billion to buy this company real quick, because he doesn't have $44 billion in cash.
Liquid,
no. So either that, or maybe he could possibly. I was thinking he might have. I forget what it's called, but you can get a loan against your stocks. Could have gone that route, but I'm like, how does anybody have the cash to lend out $44 billion?
Well,
very few.
He's the world's richest man.
That's true.
He'll figure it out.
Yeah, true. It's pretty cool though. Really is pretty cool. Christy Noam offered him to come here for his headquarters. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I was like, I doubt he'll come here.
Yeah, I think he moved Tesla to Austin area, but well, listen, I appreciate that. I've done that with places. We want to see a Chick-fil-A here.
Yeah, definitely. Come on, Chick-fil-A.
Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's.
So I've written letters over the years and just like, hey, if I'm on city council.
Dude, what the heck is up with Chick-fil-A though?
It was now here's the deal. Sioux Falls just got one, so that's great. It has been a distribution thing, so it's not about our market size. It is about their shipping and how they do things. So it helps with Sioux Falls. Now, Sioux Falls is still 5 hours away. It's
pretty far.
We are on an island here.
We are.
It's kind of cool, but also it explains a lot.
Yeah.
So we within 250 miles, we're the largest community.
Yeah.
You got to get to the northern range of Colorado or Billings, Montana, maybe Cheyenne, Sioux Falls. Really,
we are kind of on an island. You're right.
Yeah. So you have to think about. That's true with people who are touring acts who come through here. You have to think about that. Are we on the way to somewhere? And we are. Thankfully, we have an interstate that goes through here. But so that the last I heard, that was one of the challenges. But listen, you never know now. Yeah,
let's get them here.
Yeah, let's go.
Come on, Jason. That's our new task.
Come on, give me a call.
Guys. Yeah, seriously. Give Jason a call.
I'm easy to find.
Yeah. And my dad, I don't know if you know what my dad does or not, but my dad owns restaurants. And so he owns a total of like 18 restaurants, but he owns all the Sonics in town here. Sonic Drive-In.
Cherry limeades, man.
Yeah, hell yeah, cherry limeades.
What's the secret to the ice?
Well, you can now buy those ice machines, like for at home style. They're like $400.
Oh,
This guy came out. I forgot who it was, but some famous guy came out with his own because he wanted them at home, and you can
Yeah.
now buy them to put at your house. Yeah. So I just looked into that the other day.
cool.
But the secret to the ice is I don't know, whatever the ice manufacturer does. I'm not sure. Those machines are intense though.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool. It makes ice very slow, very slowly. It takes
All
a
good
lot of
things
time.
are made slowly.
That's true. There's a good point there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Fountain Springs a little bit.
All right.
What made you want to go kind of switch from business route into ministry?
Well, I had served in ministry before. I did a residency for student ministry. I grew up Lutheran, and so I was able to do student ministry for a season coming out of the Air Force when we first moved up here, and then several years later, some friends and I started having a Bible study in my living room. That grew into us meeting in public in a coffee house on Saturday nights, and then that grew with kids and everything that we had to eventually go to the Elks Theater. So
That's
we had
awesome.
planted a church. It was called Project Church. It was a pretty amazing
cool.
time. And for 5 years of my life, while I was working at the credit union, we had this church community, growing church community. Again, with some of my best friends to this day were a part of it, but I had a young family, a high-level position, and a growing church, so something had to give. So after about 5 years, I handed off the leadership of that to the team and said, my family really needs me, and my oldest was just entering his teenage years, and we were obviously teenage years are a whole new ball game, and so had to make a call to let that go. Even though I loved it, it was awesome.
Is it still around?
2014. I think the team, because of the people that were leading it, the life stage they were in, that decided they kind of distributed. Many ended up at Fountain Springs and others at other places, but and some people moved away. I think we had a transient nature to it. A lot of college students and military people, so a lot of people coming in and out. So at the same time, at 2 a.m, if I need somebody, a lot of those same people are the ones that I would call.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So when Pastor David Canan, who leads Fountain Springs, called about, really I kind of lead the business side of the church.
That makes sense.
But I do some teaching and, a lot of our strategy, all that kind of stuff. We have a great leadership team as well there. So it enabled me to, I wanted, when I left the city council and I'm at the credit union and everything's fine. I wasn't, unhappy or anything like that, but you definitely feel like, oh man, I really want to have the greatest impact I can. Not because my name will be remembered. People will forget that.
Yeah.
But, when faith is important to you, you want to do the most with the life that God has given you. And so when that opportunity came and we talked about it, I said, my wife, my daughter, my son was in the Army at the time, so I didn't really, ask him his opinion. But it seemed like people around me were like, we think this will be a good move for you. So I said, I'll do this for a season. Don't know how long that will last, but I think this will be awesome. And this is pre-pandemic and everything. We navigated a lot during that time, but it has been a remarkable journey. I will tell you, I've grown so much as a leader, as a man, during this time. I work with some of the most amazing people. I watch them up close and personal. I mean, we aren't perfect. We're all, imperfect people serving a perfect God. But the people I get to serve with are truly remarkable. I mean, no one is there not wondering if they have purpose in their work. They're all driven by that.
Yeah.
Great sense of humor, creative. It lets me scratch a creative itch. I have that in me as well. So it's been just a remarkable experience. And
That's awesome.
So I'm pretty grateful for the folks that I've been able to serve with and learn alongside with.
Yeah, a lot of my friends, like personal friends, one of my best friends is Josh Harris, and so I feel like I have an insight into their culture a little bit, and I think it's pretty special as well.
Well, Josh,
from what I can see,
man, you talking about talent?
Hell yeah,
I call him an empire builder too.
Yeah.
He's got his own little thing going on, and but that's what I mean. And watching people like him grow over the last few years. I mean, he's been promoted and he heads up he wears a lot of different hats too, but
Yeah.
that's what's really fun is, I don't know what the future holds for everything, but right now, where I'm placed, there's a great show, The Office. A lot of people know it.
Yeah.
There's a line in there Andy Bernard says at one time, towards the end of the series. It says, I wish there was a way to know you were in the good old days before you actually left them.
Damn.
And I've said that a lot because there are times we're just doing stuff and we're in the heat of it all. And I'm like, this is the good old days.
Yeah.
Things will change at some point, but people will come and go.
Yeah.
I know, but take this in for what it is. So that has been. I've tried to really soak as much of it in as I can.
Yeah.
Knowing that God always calls us to new adventures at times, but so it's been awesome, man. And I think you see that with our team.
Yeah, you totally do from the outside in for sure. Fountain Springs is a special place to me. Well, I think that was like a really good way to end this.
All right.
Was the good old days thing. I mean, that was super cool. So thank you so much for being on this, man. Really appreciate your time. And guys, if you have any questions or whatever, if you want to complain at the city council, I'll put the link to his info below. So thanks so much again, man.
All right. Thanks, man.
See you guys. Peace.
Bye.